So in this Stata tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do a histogram, and I'm going to reproduce the one in the lectures, and we're going to do it through the drop-down menus, but here is the general syntax for doing a histogram. So let's take a look at the data set that I have in memory here. I'm just going to list the first, let's say 15 observations, and I see the lung capacities, and I want to do a histogram. So a histogram, we know, will have bins on the x-axis, and on the y-axis counts or percentages. Let me just show you the one that I did in the lectures. Let's see if we can reproduce that in this tutorial. So here's the histogram that I did in the lectures. I had saved it as a graph file, so I'm going to open it now. Okay, so here I have histogram, bins on the x-axis, number or counts on the y-axis, and this tells me how the lung capacity values are distributed. So let's see if we can produce that using the drop-down menus, etc., to produce our Stata code. I'm going to go up here to Graphics, Histogram, and now here I want to, on the main tab, I want to select the variable that's going to be on my x-axis. So in this case, it's going to be lung capacity. And then you're going to need to play around with some of these things. Let's start with this. The number of bins is equal to 10. Please refer to the lectures for some of the best practices and some of the rules of thumb about these in the context of the problem. There's no right or wrong answer here, but there are some rules to remember when you are thinking about how to do the bins for these histograms in the context of the problem. And remember, the process is iterative, so you may want to change these around to see what's going to work best for your reader to understand the story. So I'm going to start out with the number of bins is equal to 10. On the y-axis, again, no right answer here, wrong answer. I usually use frequency, which is count or percent on the y-axis. Feel free to browse these tabs, but I know some things that I'm going to want to customize are labels, etc., and titles. So let's go over here to the y-axis. I've already typed in for my y-axis, instead of something generic like count or percent, I want what is the count? It's the number of participants. I may want to customize further. I'm going to, on the x-axis has the bins, but I want to know what the units are there. The x-axis has the lung capacity, so I've already typed in the lung capacity in liters. For titles, I want something descriptive, and I had typed in the distribution of the lung capacities. I like to have sample size here in the titles, and usually put where the data came from, something descriptive for my reader. So for now, let's see what this looks like. Okay, so not a bad histogram to start with. I'm looking to see what the distribution is. Looks left skewed. I can see some things, but I also want to customize this in the context of the problem. One thing I see here is that these bins, the number of bins looks pretty reasonable. It's not too many, not too few, sort of in that Goldilocks area. But they break at a strange place. They don't break at intervals that make sense. So I would like to break them here at 5 and at 10 at even units. And so a reasonable place to make these intervals would be at units of 1 in this particular case. Now sometimes it might be units of 10, or if it's hours, units of 24, etc. So let me go back and change the bin widths. Instead of saying the number of bins, I'm going to make the width of the bins 1. They're going to be a width of 1 liter. And the lower limit of the first bin, I'm going to make sure that it starts at 0. Now, that's just for this problem. There may be other problems that I wanted to start at 5 or at 100, etc. So you're going to have to look at your problem, see what makes sense. I might want to add the heights to the bars. I might not. It might make it look messy. Let's see what it looks like. Add the height labels to the bar. Let's just do that the default. Looking okay. If I do find that I want to make some small tweaks to make it more reader-friendly, be a better communicator, I could go back to that pop-up box, or I could come over here to this little button that does the open the graphics editor, and then I would come over here, make sure that I save it, and then anytime I want to come back, I can edit it to tweak any sort of changes. So now I'll show you the code that was created whenever I did all those drop-down menus. It generated behind the scenes this long code, but it's basically just says histogram, the variable name. Oh, and one other thing I can show you. I forgot. Let's come up here to if I wanted to do this, let's say by gender, I can come back up here and do it with a by statement. So if I come to my pop-up box, it has all these tabs. One of the tabs says by, and I can do my histogram, my lung capacity histogram by, let's say, gender, or by smoking status, or by cesarean section. Let's say I want to do it by gender. I click OK. And here I have two histograms, side-by-side histograms, and I can compare the lung capacities for males versus females. And I would want to do some tweaking here to make it a little more user-friendly. This number's covered up, etc. But it does show you, I have shown you now how to do a side-by-side histogram. So what we've done is to graph a histogram, and it's for observation level data only. And I showed you how to do this with the drop-down menu, but this is basically the syntax for it.